the people who claim to have witnessed unexplained phenomena, very few can offer what can be regarded as proof. Their stories can be easily dismissed, and often are, but do they deserve more? All we can do is look them in the eye and decide for ourselves whether they're genuine, and ask ourselves why anyone should make up such a story, especially when they risk ridicule. The key witnesses in our first story tonight are people you'd normally trust. Some indeed have frequently given evidence in courts of law. Here's the story, believe what you will. Ever since building work began, a new section of road across the top of the Peak District has attracted reports of strange happenings. The first was from two security guards, and this is what they saw one night.
Ring a roses.
A group of children running in a circle in a field at the side of a construction site. The time was round about midnight, and you just wouldn't see children playing there at that time of night when it was so far away from any houses. And the children disappeared. They were security men who'd been in the industry a long time. They knew the job. They had worked nights for a number of years, and not the type of people that you'd expect to be scared.
The A616 used to pass straight through this old steel town, but then the road planners got to work on Stocksbridge. They built a sweeping new bypass. While it may have made the town quieter, some believe the bypass disturbed something which would have been best left alone. Certainly the two security guards who were watching over the equipment being used to build it would agree. They were still puzzling over the sight of the children, but that was just the beginning.
The next incident was later on that night.
Here, Stan, stop the car. Look, there's someone up there. Don't be daft. It can't be. Yes, there is. Look! You drive around, shine your lights on bridge. I'll wait down here. Right.
They immediately started the vehicle up, shone the headlights towards the hooded figure, and the headlights actually shone through the figure.
Oh, God! It's disappeared into thin air! Let's get out of here!
The men, in a state of shock, called their boss out. He was alarmed at the state they were in.
Dan, Jeff.
They were physically shaking. Their complexion was very white and pallid. One of the guards was actually crying.
Go on, try me.
Well, it's difficult to describe it. It looked like a monk. I mean, what were he doing there? I don't know, it were evil. Yeah. How can it just disappear?
First thing the next morning, the men went to the local police. The officer on duty knew them.
It was obvious that they'd seen or heard something. They were both spooked. And basically, I said to them it was not really a police matter and there was nothing I could do about it. And perhaps jokingly, I told them that really they needed the church more than they needed the police.
But they took him seriously. They went to Stocksbridge Church and refused to leave.
About an hour or so later, I received a phone call from my boss, and I was told to go up to the church and sort this matter out, firstly to get them out of the church, and then see if I could find out anything that they'd actually seen, heard, or whatever.
The security guards never, it seems, got over what happened to them.
One of them left after 3 days, and the other one stayed with us roughly 2 to 3 months, and neither of the two guards would set foot on that site again, even in the daylight.
While the bypass was being built, runner Graham Brooke was training for a marathon. One day he was out jogging with his son Nigel.
I saw a chap walking with his back to the traffic. He was walking in the middle of the road.
I looked at it and you could see it had no features to it except for a nose and eye sockets.
I could smell like this fusty, rottenish smell.
Not a human type smell.
And then I could see that he wasn't walking on the road, he was like walking in the road. and from below the knee down, you know, you couldn't see anything.
Each time things are apparently seen, the descriptions vary, but the reputation of the bypass deepens.
We were coming home from Judy's parents over the bridge that goes over the bypass.
Dave, look.
I could see out of the corner of my eye like a grey apparition. There was actually no facial expressions.
It was hovering. Arms and legs were flaying all over the place.
Strange. It looks almost like a man running. But he's not running on the ground.
It ran up the embankment.
It's a man, isn't
He
it?
actually rose from the side into the road and it disappeared into the car.
Oh my God!
I can think of no other explanation for what we saw. In my mind, I think in both of our minds, what we saw had to have been a ghost.
So if something does keep appearing on the bypass, what is it? Lucinda June is a psychic. She says she knows.
I was driving along the Stocksbridge bypass and the car started to become very, very cold. With this came a smell of musty books. Then all of a sudden a darkness appeared to the left-hand side of me and I felt very, very frightened. And I did pick up the spirit of a monk that had been there 500 years previous.
But why should a long-dead monk be on what is now the Stocksbridge bypass? It's been discovered there were once monastery farms in the area.
The rumour or the story is that one of these monks became disillusioned with the rather harsh autocratic way of life. He came here to Underbank Hall, worked the rest of his natural life here as groundsman or whatever, and subsequently when he died he was buried in unhallowed ground.
Some believe the bypass may have been built over the supposed monk's grave, and they also have theories to explain the children seen by the security guards.
Children were used in the valley's coal mines in the late 18th and mid-19th century. The rumour suggests that there's been some sort of a mining catastrophe.
So, a phantom monk, ghostly children. After dealing with the security men in the church, P.C. Ellis and his colleague John Beat were sent to investigate.
Let's switch the radios off.
Right.
We sat in the panda car with the lights off and the engine off.
Seems all right.
We sat looking at the bridge, and after a while I was convinced I could see something moving about on the bridge. Not wanting to spook myself or John, I kind of looked at John.
Hang on. What's that up there?
Go and see what it is, Dick.
I actually climbed up the ladder onto the bridge, and there was a lot of things scattered about on the top of the bridge.
It's only a sheet of polythene!
Well, once we thought we'd found out what it was and what was actually on the bridge, we decided to give it another 10-15 minutes and say, forget it and we'll go back on our normal patrol.
I suddenly got this feeling, you can't explain it. There's this saying, somebody's walked over your grave which turns you cold. And I then became aware that somebody now had appeared directly on my right hand side and was virtually leaning and pressing themselves against the car. I managed to cast my head quickly to the right and remember seeing the upper section of somebody's chest torso and a clear V sign.
Oh my God! Look! What the heck is it?
I don't know. It's gone.
Is it?
When I got out of my side, not a person, nothing about at all. I even hit the deck and looked under the vehicle because nobody could have run away from us with bankings on both sides. Nobody ran forwards or backwards.
We went to start the car, and at first the car wouldn't start, and we started to panic a little bit. drove off and radioed our colleagues.
There's a bang behind the car, which I can only really put down to sounding like somebody was hitting the back of the car with something like a baseball bat or a pickaxe handle.
We need help on the bypass side.
Things on this job have frightened me, and it wasn't the kind of fear that you get from violence offered towards you or anything like that. It was more the kind of dread feeling or knowing that something's happening that you've no control over.
Just for the record, the Stocksbridge bypass was opened on Friday the 13th. The Bible probably contains more supernatural phenomena than any book ever written. Amongst them are nearly 300 appearances by angels, including those which foretold Christ's nativity, and an angel which led Moses to the parting of the Red Sea. Heavenly beings also feature heavily on stained glass windows and Christmas cards. It's a comforting thought that we might all have a guardian angel, but is it just what some want to believe? Now, these books are all testimonies of angelic intervention, and they've sold 5 million copies in America. It's there that our next story is set, with a young woman in a desperate plight.
It was the most treacherous cliff that I've ever seen. So I started screaming, "Help, help, somebody help me." Don't know how I got down. No one else could possibly have survived it without angelic assistance.
Rescued by angels. Chantal Lakey is one of hundreds who claim that when life is on the brink of crisis, heavenly beings have stepped in. An incredible claim. But such tales of survival are so remarkable, so incredible, that it seems normal explanations hardly apply. Shari Peterson has to fly all over the world in her job as a travel guide. Planes are her second home. But on a flight from Hawaii to New Zealand, she realized something unusual was happening.
The flight attendant, as she was walking up the aisle, she was serving people walking towards me. We made eye contact, and we looked at each other, and I thought, wow, that's really interesting. We just connected in some way. That kind of eye contact and connection with people, you just don't do that when you fly.
Another passenger was Bruce Lampert, a former pilot who's now a lawyer, specializing in injury claims after plane crashes.
The irony of the fact that I was, instead of being the lawyer, I was going to be the victim, did not escape me as I sat on that airplane that night.
I usually loosen or undo my seatbelt, and that's when I heard the voice.
Fasten your seatbelt.
Did you say something?
No, I didn't.
Only Shari Peterson had heard the voice, seemingly from nowhere.
I thought, that's not something one person would say to another person. And that's when I went, I'm going to do this.
Less than a minute later, she knew why.
Suddenly there was this huge boom, and then this incredible decompression as the side of the airplane opened up.
This accident literally was every air traveler's worst nightmare. The aircraft was fully loaded, and as it was climbing through 22,000 feet, the forward cargo door opened in flight. It was caught in the 300-knot airstream, tearing a hole through the main cabin. Anybody that would not have been fastened in their seat would have been ejected through the hole.
I could see the ocean out the hole that was below me, and I'm thinking, you know, if there's anybody out there who can hear me, meaning whoever told me to tighten my seatbelt, please help.
Although 9 passengers were killed, the plane landed safely.
They have done numerous simulations of the actual accident, and they can't make the plane land. We had 2 engines on fire, the side of the airplane's gone, we were loaded with fuel. Since that time I've gotten to know the pilot and Captain Cronin, and he said he did not land that airplane. I quote. That was really not from this world. A messenger from somewhere, call it what you will. I believe it was an angel.
And as he began to handle the compensation claims, Bruce Lampert found she was not the only one.
The husband and wife related to me that he heard a voice. Of the 50 people that I represented, they all had dramatic stories. But I found it very unusual that out of those folks, the 2 of them had actually heard somebody on the aircraft during the trauma of the crisis speaking to them.
But is all this just wishful thinking, a comforting way to face such traumatic experiences for the victims?
They believe that they've seen angels because, to a certain extent, they have. They have seen them. They seemed real to them. Now, I don't think they saw something that was outside themselves. I think that they saw them in their own minds. On occasion, things can conspire and produce a waking dream that has all the attributes of reality.
Real or not, so many people now claim to have had angel experiences that one believer, Marilyn Weber, holds weekly discussion groups at her home.
And just last week in Chicago, one of the
it does
on the playground,
never cease to amaze us of many stories that people tell us about angels.
One of the stories that has really touched me lately has to do with the earthquake that took place a few months ago.
My grandson's teacher was sound asleep on the couch. Something tapped her on the shoulder and said, "Get up." And she said she immediately woke up and walked down into the basement. Her whole home was destroyed. And where she was laying, a beam from the ceiling had fell right on the couch.
Marilyn Weber has received almost 10,000 letters from angel believers, and she's even started up a mail order business. She became a devotee herself after, she insists, 4 angels came to her in a dream.
Yes, that's a ceramic one that's made by a special... And they weren't the angels I wanted to see or expected to see, because they were dressed in black. And their message to me was that I was dying. Unless something was done, I was dying. So I woke up as so distressed with this dream and with a pain that I'd never felt before.
Marilyn rushed to hospital. Her medical records show that she was found to have a form of cancer from which patients never usually feel any pain until it's too late.
I wouldn't have gone to a doctor had I not had the warning, and had the cancer just been allowed to continue, then I would not have survived.
Some people don't claim only to have heard strange voices or dreamed about angels, though. They say they've actually seen them.
Dale was very, very athletic, very much into trying new events and exciting, adventurous things.
Chantal Lakey and her fiancé Dale Thompson were on their way home from a holiday on the west coast of America when they stopped the car to climb a rock overlooking the sea for a spectacular view of the ocean.
I wanted that moment at the top of the mountain to last forever because I had never felt more intimate and close to Dale.
God, this is gorgeous.
I don't want to leave.
Oh, I know, I don't want to go home.
Well, you know what?
What?
We do have a few hours. Why don't we just take this trail over here and go down to the beach? Let's go, okay?
Okay. All right.
His hand was outstretched to me and he said, "How's your fear factor?" And I said, "Oh, I'm fine. Don't worry about me." But in actuality, I was terrorized. I was scared to death. All of a sudden, after several feet, the trail turned into a straight drop. And we found ourselves upon a cliff, and we didn't know what to do. We started to try to climb back up, but we couldn't do it because every time we moved our hands or our feet, the rock would fall. He looked at me and he said, "What we need to do is inch our way down, and I'm going to go first." He kept falling and falling until I couldn't see him fall anymore. And I was up there all alone. I couldn't move. I couldn't see any place to put my hands or my feet, and I was so afraid. I was frozen, just frozen in time, frozen in space. All of a sudden, I was in a mist. I just remember hearing the singing and feeling the mist all around me, and the love and the specialness. And at that instant, I knew there was angels.
Chantal found herself at the foot of the cliffs. Dale had been killed, but she wasn't even injured. So was she helped by unearthly hands? Could she have made it another way? Not according to the local police.
The professional rescue team in reality didn't come down the same route that Dale fell. It was far too dangerous even with the gear and the professional training. Chantal said she came partway down that face of that rock. It's the opinion of the rescue personnel that once committed, neither could a person come down unassisted nor go back up. So how she got off that rock is left to speculation.
I know that it was real. I know that the angels were there for me.
After Dale's death, Chantal Lakey met a new man. He'd had an angel experience too, and now he's becoming famous for painting pictures of them. And these guardian spirits are appearing not just in America, but all over the place. A few years ago, Russian cosmonauts in an orbiting space station radioed back to base saying that they had seen angelic beings outside their spacecraft. Well, they were very high. Until next time, good night.